morning, everyone. Thank you for coming today. My name is Nancy Puder, and I'm your host for today's seminar called The Truth About Senior Living Options. And I am so excited that you're here today. Can everyone hear me in the back? Yes? Yes. Okay. By a show of hands, how many of you are here for the first time? Wow, that's great. So where did you hear about the seminar?
The news review.
The news review? Your Facebook? Okay, great. And then I see familiar faces. So how many of you have been to one of our seminars before? Great. So we're doing something right. You're coming back? Wonderful. Again, my name is Nancy Puder, and I am a real estate broker with Keller Williams. And you may be wondering why a real estate broker would be holding free seminars for seniors. So I'll tell you a little bit about how that came about. After 40 years of being in the real estate world, I found myself in situations over and over again where there was a crisis going on in a family, and I was brought in to help sell the home. And what I ended up doing was walking into the middle of total chaos. The family was stressed out and anxious. I've seen the best families make uninformed decisions that might have been good for them, but not so good for the older adult. I've seen family members torn apart and sat with many of them while they were agonizing over decisions on where to move mom or dad or Aunt Sally. Usually my senior adult at that point is in a weakened state and they're unable to participate or at least fully participate in the decisions that are being made so quickly. And the kids are anxious to get back to their lives and make some decisions. And in the middle of it all is my elderly client who's sitting there looking obviously very miserable and unable to do much, have too much to do with the decision making. The frustrating part for me was that so often I could see that this situation could have played out better with a little bit of pre-planning. And so I used to wonder, where are the people that help these people, for heaven's sakes? I've been selling real estate since I was 28, and I've seen this situation over and over and over again over the years, and I think, where the heck are the people to help these people? And one day, it took me a long time, so I'm a little bit of a late bloomer, it occurred to me that maybe I was the person that should step up and through education help these senior adults and their families make knowledge-driven decisions as opposed to crisis-driven decisions as they age. And so that's how Seacoast Seniors was born. This is something that we do free of charge. We have regular seminars. Our sponsors are, two of our sponsors are here today. Charmaine, would you like to raise your hand? And then Clarice in the back is one of our sponsors. We appreciate our sponsors so much because they're not only great to work with, but they also help us financially, and that allows us to continue to put these seminars on free of charge. So, restrooms. If you need to use the restrooms, you go out the door to the right, and they're right past the staircase. And on the table in front of you, you'll have a packet, on the top of which is an evaluation sheet. We really appreciate you filling out the evaluation sheet because it helps us continue to improve our seminars as we go along. If at any time you decide that you want to have a free consultation with either me or one of our panelists or sponsors, there's a box there that you can check. And underneath the evaluation sheet is what we call a cheat sheet. I don't know what we have it titled there, but that's what it is. And that's where you can jot down questions or thoughts that come up as we're going along. We ask that you keep your questions until we have the question and answer session, which will be right after we interview the panelists. And so I have a few things to share with you related to senior living options, and then I'll introduce the panelists and ask them questions that they've received in advance. After they answer the prepared questions, we'll open it up for questions from the audience. We'll end at 11:30 sharp unless we run out of questions sooner. Okay? So as always, we're here to educate and equip, not sell. So please know that if we can be of service to you, we would be happy to help you in any way that we can, but no one is here to sell you anything, and no one is here to try to convince you to do something that you don't want to do. How many of you know that the current growth of the population ages 65 or older is one of the most significant demographic trends in the history of the United States? Yes. And I suppose that could be a testimony for public health, because people are living longer. But along with this phenomenal growth are certain problems that kind of come along with it, like where the heck are all these people going to live? And are there enough senior services to take care of some of the problems or situations that need to be addressed as we age? So that's what we at Seacoast Seniors are here to do for you. That's what we try to do, so that you're better able to make the knowledge-driven decision versus the crisis-driven decision in either your own life or in the life of a loved one. So I heard it said recently that if you've lived to be 60, there's a very good chance you're going to live to be 100. And I fully expected that reaction, because when I ask 65 and 75-year-olds what their plans are for the next 25 years, that's exactly what they do. They laugh and they say, "Oh, honey, I'm not going to live that long. I don't want to live that long." And they try to just brush me off. And as I press in and pursue the topic, they'll say, "Well, you know, my kids will take care of me," or "I have a sister or someone in the family who's real good at that." And so that's their plan, in other words. So I'll just say that, personally speaking, if I were going to live to be 100 or more, I wouldn't want someone else to be making the decision about where I'm going to live and what my life is going to look like. So, and I don't want to burden my children with that task. So today we're really going to dig into what independent living is and isn't, and what people can expect when moving to an independent living community, and various other options in this area. Today is when you get the answers to any questions that you might have on your mind, and we'll answer them to the best of our ability. So we realize that you're all in different stages of planning for your later years, and this may be the first step that you've taken to begin your own personal journey. May I say that regardless of where you are definitely in the right place today, because being informed is the key. So that's what this empowerment series is all about. It's about helping you get answers to your questions, give you solutions to your problems, and the courage that you need to face the decisions with confidence that you're going to have to make along the way. You may have noticed that adult living communities are springing up everywhere. And that's because all of these baby boomers are entering their senior years, and there's a lot of them. How many of you have heard it called the silver tsunami? Okay, well, that's a term that you're going to start hearing more often. Believe it or not, they're calling us the silver tsunami. But here's the disconnect. 90% of people, when asked where they plan to be for the last years of their life, their answer is, I'm going to stay in my own home. I'm not going anywhere. You know, we thought about this when we moved here. We're staying here. In fact, you're going to have to carry me out feet first in a box. And that's 90% of the people that I speak to. And I speak to a lot of people. But interestingly, 70% of those same people find it at some point in their life necessary to move to a different environment. And the sad part is most of the time, these 70% wait so long to make the decision to move that now their options are extremely limited. So it's a lot easier to get into an independent living community while you're healthy, strong, and ambulatory than it is to be sickly and weak. And they're not going to throw you out if you start having issues, but if you have issues going in, you might not have as much available to you. And I'll let the panelists go into more detail about that. So today you have options. Do you all agree we have options? Yes, okay. So good. Here are some things to consider when planning for your later years, and they could include moving to a single level home if you're in a 2-story right now. Now, you might be able to beat your grandkids up and down the stairs when you race them, like I did up until a year ago. But these days, I'm a little bit more concerned about falling. I'm not exactly known for my coordination, so over the years, I've missed a step going up the stairs, which hurts actually more than going down and falling all the way down the stairs. But I've stumbled going up, and I've ended up at the bottom of the staircase several times in my life. And we all got a good laugh about it. I had some bruises, which I would proudly display if you wanted to go into my story that deeply. And then I was fine. But these days, I'm not convinced that if I do take a fall, that there aren't going to be more serious consequences. So I'm a little bit more careful. Downsizing into a smaller home or a condo is another option. Maybe you're tired of keeping up the yards, paying for the gardener, vacuuming and dusting 4 extra rooms that you don't live in. And so that's a good option. But this one's my favorite. Moving in with the kids. How many of you really want to live with the kids? I love my children, but that is just not something that I would want to consider. And surprisingly, I do meet people quite often who tell me that's the plan. And the kids are right there with them saying, oh yeah, mom's just going to come live with us. And my personal opinion on that is that they're not in touch with reality. But I'll let the panelists share more about the reasons why this isn't always the best option and how things sometimes just don't go the way you thought they would. And another option would be moving into a 55-plus senior community if you can find one. On the Central Coast, we have very limited residential neighborhoods that are for seniors only. Probably the most prevalent are the manufactured homes in a senior park. We have some other condos up behind Walmart and various other places throughout the county, but there's not a lot available. And then of course you have the rental properties like Cortina, but the rental or the apartments usually have about 700 people on the waiting list. So if that's something that you think, oh, well, if it becomes necessary, I'll just go rent something, think again. So the other option is, and a lot of people are beginning to get very interested in this option, is the adult independent living community. And today we are hoping to dispel the notion that moving into an adult living community is like moving into a home. Today our panelists are going to share with you some myths and facts about independent living and equip you with the knowledge that you need today so that you're smarter when you leave than when you walked in the door. Does that sound good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. So you ready to learn something?
Yeah.
Turn to your neighbor and say, this is going to be the best presentation ever.
It's going to be the best presentation. Absolutely.
Okay, I'm going to start by asking our panelists to introduce themselves one at a time, and then we'll begin to ask them some prepared questions that they've received in advance.
Hi, I'm Susan Stewart. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Just hold it close to your
I'm
mouth.
myself getting used to a new pair of hearing aids. Oh, there we go. So I'm never sure whether I'm being heard or not, and up until a few days ago, I wasn't sure if I was hearing you as well as I should. So I've done the right thing and gotten some hearing aids, but I'm still adjusting. I work for the Villages of San Luis Obispo, which is a retirement community that offers both independent, also assisted living and memory care. The element we are missing is skilled nursing. We do not have a skilled nursing community in our family of buildings. I've been with the Villages for about 10 years, so as you might imagine, I've seen a lot of different scenarios, and what Nancy says is absolutely true. Independent living, shall I just describe what the differences between independent and assisted?
We'll ask that question in a little while.
Okay.
So let's just have Gary
Okay.
introduce and we'll come back.
Okay.
Good morning. My name's Gary Gross, and I'm the Community Relations Director at Merrill Gardens in Santa Maria. Merrill Gardens is owned and operated by the Merrill family, and we have 70 communities in 20 states, and we offer, just like the Villages, independent living for those that are north of 62, as I say, assisted living, and also memory care. We also don't have a component of skilled nursing. There are skilled nursings in the communities in the area that get referred to. I've been with Merrill Gardens for the past 10 years, and I am considered a senior community relations director as they send me out to other properties as well.
Great. Charmaine.
Hi, I'm Charmaine Peterson, and I'm a certified senior advisor, and my company is Senior Living Consultants. We're a free placement agency for senior housing. We've been around 23 years, and we know all these communities inside and out, and so I've been dedicating my life to helping seniors find all the appropriate options out there, independent living, assisted living, or dementia care homes here on the Central Coast.
Great. Charmaine, let me start with you, and I'll ask you the first question. Why do you think that people here today should begin to plan now?
It's so important to look at your options now. Even if you're not even ready for another 5-10 years, whatever it might be, because you just don't know. We don't have a crystal ball. And once you go out with me and look at everything, it will give you such peace of mind. You'll know pricing, and you just never know. I've seen people so healthy, and then all of a sudden they have a stroke, and you don't want to wait for that, event to happen to where you're in a crisis. And a lot of these places, you can even get yourself on a waiting list if you really do like them, and they keep you right there on the waiting list, even though they might call you when an opening happens, but you stay right there at your position, because it really is dog eat dog out there to try to find a place. And so it's just good to be proactive and see all of the appropriate options on what you can afford, stays in your budget. And should I tell them about the different types of living, or?
No, we'll go on to that question in a few minutes. Thanks, Charmaine.
Right, so answering the same question, why plan for the future? It's amazing how important that is. You're all seniors.
No.
A lot of you have children.
No, we're not.
You're not a senior? You're not over 62?
No.
Not yet, he isn't.
Well, that's great.
Tommy
Come
robbed the,
see us.
I'm
See,
way
I can't
over that.
believe that.
Tommy robbed the cradle. So he's the baby in the
He's the
family.
baby.
Right.
But don't
We-
feel bad, because I did too,
Yeah,
so don't.
right.
So let me clarify this. You say you're not a senior, or you're over 50 years old. Then you've received your first AARP communication, therefore making you a senior. Join the party. Proud of you. So we like when people come to us early. People say to us, just like when you go out to look for a car, I'm just looking. I'm just kicking the tires. We invite that, we welcome that, because that's the first step and the most important step for you to be able to make the choice of where you may want to go when you're ready for independent living, or when you're in need of assisted living, or when your family decides you need help with memory care. It's important for you to be part of that decision. And lots of times when you don't come in and plan ahead, your children or the state of California will make that decision for you. So please come in and visit our communities. Use a placement agency. Charmaine's a very good placement agent. There are others out there, and they all work similarly. We invite everyone in with a placement agency on your own. Come in and find out what we're about, what the village is about. We know each other very well. We know each other's products very well. Come in and visit us so we can show you.
Right. So I think we've all, Gary and Charmaine and even Nancy, covered the most important reason to plan ahead. And that's to avoid the crisis, because we all know it's a whole lot easier to make a choice, an educated, informed choice, when our hair is not on fire, right? That's really the main point here. Doing the homework early is critical to actually making the kind of decision, because you'll get to know yourself better too. When you start to do the homework early, like you're doing today by coming to this seminar, you get to know your own preferences better. And knowing yourself better is just key. I mean, not everybody's cut out for a community like mine and Gary's. We wish they were, but it's just not true. There are people out there who don't want communal living, and for that, Charmaine and other placement agencies can help determine what things might work better for you. So planning ahead avoids the crisis, helps you make decisions that are better educated and better informed, and it helps you to stay in control so that as Gary said, your kids or the state are not making the decisions for you.
Okay, Susan,
Yeah.
I'm going to ask you, we're all, when we're out driving around, we see the terms out there: adult independent living, continuing care, CCRC, assisted living, skilled nursing, memory care. And what those terms mean to most of us is unclear at best, and for most of us it's kind of a mystery. So could you kind of differentiate between the different types of communities?
Sure. We'll start with independent. Independent living, retirement living, is often community, a fairly large community, and it offers really nice apartments of various, or even sometimes cottages of various different sizes and price ranges, and they offer usually built-in services. Things like meals, so breakfast and dinner, sometimes all 3 meals, transportation services, housekeeping services, a calendar of activities, and many offer utilities paid. Those are the 5 things that we at the Villages offer, and a lot of independent communities offer the same kinds of services. What we do not offer in independent living is any hands-on personal care. For that, you need assisted living, which is the next step up in terms of care for that. Assisted living communities offer all the things I just mentioned and personal care. things like help with taking a shower, getting dressed if you have trouble with zippers or buttons and that sort of thing, or support hose. Sometimes we need a little help with those things. Medication management, and again, a tailor-made calendar of activities as well. So assisted living is a state licensed community to provide personal care. Memory care is for people with Alzheimer's and any of the dementias, and it can be anywhere from the mildly affected to the profoundly affected. And it is an assisted living community that specializes in memory care. So the staff is well versed and well trained in housing and taking care of people who have memory loss of all different kinds. It doesn't have to be Alzheimer's, it can be any of the other dementias or even brain damage as well as a result of an accident. And then skilled nursing is not in my family of buildings, nor in Gary's, but these are the medical buildings. So if you are bedridden, you have an ongoing illness that requires medical care that assisted living does not provide, skilled nursing does. So those are the 4 general categories.
Okay, Gary, would you like to add to that?
Well, Susan talked about it fantastically. She laid it out. What you have to realize is the difference between the terminology of independent, meaning that you're taking care of your own needs, as opposed to assisted living. And we get calls all the time in that realm. Do you take Medi-Cal or do you take Medicare? And that's the big difference. Communities that are either independent living, assisted living, or even memory care do not take any medical insurance. Only a skilled nursing facility will take Medi-Cal, all right? In other counties of California, Medi-Cal will come into effect with what they call an assisted living waiver program. It is not available here on the Central Coast. That's for people that cannot afford community living.
So we're a free service, senior living consultants for the community, and we specialize, we're experts on helping you, guide you through this process. Seniors spiral down from isolation, boredom, and loneliness. And even if you're still driving, but you lost a loved one of 65 years, it's good to look at these options, especially the bigger communities, because you're independent, just for the socialization of these communities. You've got all these wonderful activities keeping you engaged, not focusing on mourning over the loss of your loved one. And but the bigger communities, like she was saying, you have independent, assisted, memory care, but then they can do the care, assisted care, once you go into assisted living. And then some people need even a higher level of care. And then we have, out of the 150 homes here on the Central Coast, from Paso Robles to Santa Maria, less than a dozen are the bigger communities like the Villages and Merrill Gardens. And then all the other places are little homes like you and I live. They're licensed as an RCFE, residential care facility for the elderly. And they do the highest care. They can take bedridden, they can, if a person's in a wheelchair, they have eyes on them. The ratio's 1 caregiver for 3 people, and they take only 6 in their house. And the house is licensed through social services through the state of California, and then they're watching them. They help them out of bed, off the toilet, out of their recliner. And most of these people in the 6-bed houses have some memory loss too. So that's an option, and we just, and then we narrow it down by budget. So this area, San Luis Obispo, from Napomo to Paso, for the assisted living homes range about $4,000 a month. And that's with your meals, transportation, all the care, and it can go up to about $9,000 a month. You could pick a place depending on your budget. They've got Taj Mahal places with 5-star restaurants, chefs, and so we find out through my office what budget you want to stay in, and then there is homes that are $2,000 a month, but there's more value in Santa Maria because there's more homes, and so we can still help you with a loved one if you feel like you don't have $4,000 a month. But starting in this county, it's $4,000 and up. Skilled nursing is $9,000 to $10,000 a month private pay, unless you're on Medi-Cal. And so that's the only place that takes Medi-Cal. And in our office, we help with getting on Medi-Cal, veterans benefits, getting, a lot of people don't know if you were a veteran, you could get an extra $1,800 a month just because you served actively in wartime. And so we help with that. A lot of people have long-term care policies. They got them a long time ago. They don't know how to activate them. They come into our office or we come to their home and we help with if you have a long-term care policy. So yeah, it's really a very interesting, and then there's CCRCs. So RCFE, Residential Care Facility for the Elderly, but RCFEs, we have hardly any out here. They're CCRCs. They're trying to break ground for a CCRC in San Luis Obispo. Some of you might have heard of it, Bellagio, but they haven't broken ground yet. And that's a buy-in. So you buy in for, anywhere from like $800,000 to $1 million, and then you have, they only take you coming in independent, and then you also have a monthly charge as well, that's private pay, to be a resident for a CCRC.
So when you run out of money, they just throw you out on the street, or what?
Good question. That's when you would get on Medi-Cal,
And that's only good to 65?
and that's only for the skilled nursing, or you'll never run out of your Social Security. So if your Social Security is, plus we kind of work it out, and we might look at homes in Santa Maria that are a better budget.
Okay, great, Charmaine. Okay, and we are going to open it up for questions, and you're going to have plenty of time to talk to everybody, and they will be staying after the seminar throughout the room and be able to answer any personal questions that you might have. And I don't think I remembered to tell you that earlier. Gary, what would be the best advice that you could give to older adults and their family members?
There's lots of good advice.
I know. Tell me a few.
And we're full of it as far as that goes. Great advice. Is to plan what your future looks like early. If you're not a senior or don't think you're a senior yet, you might consult with an insurance broker and get a long-term care policy where it's more affordable than when you're older. A long-term care policy kicks in when you need help with activities of daily living. You'll hear people say ADLs. Activities of daily living are things that we take for granted. Brushing our teeth, combing our hair, taking a shower, and going to the toilet. That's when these insurance policies kick in. That's not for independent living. And it's not for the rent. However, most policies cover a good portion of that through a residual because they give you a per diem, per day rate on those policies. If you have that, all communities take that, or will help you through that maze of insurance stuff that you need to go through.
Great, great. Which way are we going, Susan?
I think this
Oh,
way.
Charmaine.
Yeah, it's important to understand the difference between CCRC, which is continuing care, retirement, community. You'll hear that term thrown around a lot. And as Gary was telling me yesterday, there is only the closest one of those to this community is in Solvang. So there really are no CCRCs in San Luis Obispo County yet, but they are thinking about doing it, and some are breaking ground. And the big difference is that they have a skilled nursing in their family of buildings. So you can go straight from independent to assisted to memory to skilled. You're taken care of throughout your life. So if you're the kind of person who really wants to know, I'm going to be taken care of from the minute I walk in the doors till the day they carry me out, then a CCRC is a very good option, but it is quite a bit pricier. They want a buy-in amount rather than what Gary and my community offer, which is month to month. You're only obligated for a month-to-month situation. So it's a lot more flexible. You can, if you're the kind of person who wants to have that flexibility and doesn't want to commit to a lifetime situation and spend all that money to go into one, then our kind of community is a better choice, which is why it's so important. I mean, back to your question, Nancy, about the best piece of advice that I could give would be to know yourself. And I mean know yourself today, because what you might want to do today in your 60s or 50s is going to be very different from maybe what the kind of person you are in your 80s and 90s. I know that's been true for me. I always thought that I wanted to live somewhere very, very hot all the time, because I'm always cold. But it turns out that as I get into my 70s now, I'm not all that interested in being super hot all the time. I want it warm. But those things change. Some people are sick to death of cooking. They never want to see a stove again as long as they live. And some other people want to do a coq au vin every week, Yeah. So really knowing yourself, making a checklist of the ways that you want to be living in your elder years is the best piece of advice I can give you. So that way when you go out to do this kind of homework, you know what your preferences are, and you can look at the kinds of things that will fit those preferences better.
Great, great. Charmaine, would you like to add to that?
Yes, and so we take families out and show them all the appropriate options, and tend to ask the questions the families don't think to ask. And then we kind of stay in touch with you if you're not ready and things have changed over the years. And then, something has changed, events happen, a diagnosis happened, and then we look at other options if we need to. When the time's right, we're there for you, and you've got to really go out there and just take a look with me and see what's out there, what the pricing looks like, and if you like something, we can get on a waiting list, and you'll get peace of mind from this. Every person that comes out of my car after a tour feels like a big weight off their shoulders when we go and see these communities. They're really nice.
And Charmaine, would you say that it would be a good idea for them to talk to their families about?
Yes, have that difficult conversation with your families. Get your advance directives in place. Do the pulse form. How many have filled out a pulse form? Good.
That's the bright pink form that your doctor wants you to fill out that you may not ever get around to filling out.
We're putting out terms like pulse. That's a physician's order for life-sustaining treatment. That's your wishes if you were to have a heart attack or a stroke or be in a major accident and become paralyzed, what you want the medical community to do. So I just wanted to explain what she was describing.
Yeah.
Sorry for the interruption.
No problem. So, so we help you, guide you through all these steps, hold your hand through the process, make sure you have maybe a living trust set up. And some people have a trust, but they haven't seen it in 30 years. So, revisiting that. And so we think of everything for seniors. People have called us and said, Mom still wants to stay at home, but I need ramps and gripper bars. Just give us a call. We know the experts, or, we've got to get rid of all this clutter. And so we've got people for that too. Anything else, Jerry?
I have one other thing. With your planning, either a living will or a trust or anything like that, more importantly than that, if you don't want a living trust or do a will, you should make sure that you have dedicated powers of attorney for health care and for finances. That's what communities like Merrill Gardens looks for, because sometimes you have 3 or 4 kids and they have what we call family dynamics. They don't get along. Mary wants Mom to do this, and Stan wants her to do this. And when you're not able to make that important decision, you don't want your children fighting for power and to make that decision for you. So more importantly than wills, trusts, or anything else is a power of attorney. You can get those online and have them notarized, or you can go to an attorney to get it done.
Can I interject something?
Yeah, really good.
I just want to say that all of us have wonderful people that we can refer you to. And one of the situations that I run into in my real estate business is people tell me that they have powers of attorney. And when it comes out in the wash, they really don't have the correct power of attorney. So I wouldn't recommend necessarily going online. Most attorneys are worth, to have them review and set you up with the correct power of attorney. I think is worth its weight in gold. And I agree with you. You could start online, get your mind stimulated, but if you need references to good people, whether it's for repairs or to make your home safe, or to good attorneys or wealth managers to help you figure out if you're going to have enough money to live the rest of your life, any one of us, I'd of course love it if you called me, because I have amazing people that we've vetted and we can, refer to you with confidence.
What's next, Nancy?
Well, I just just wanted to bring up staying socially engaged.
Oh my
is
gosh,
that
that's
is that
so
important? Most people underestimate the power of that.
Right, and I can certainly speak to that. I was going to say earlier, so I'm glad you brought it up, Nancy, that even more important than money and more important than health is your social life. For those of us who are loners, and I count myself among them, that's a difficult statement to hear. But even if you're sick or poor, having a social community can really, really enhance your life. So cultivate a close circle of friendships and relatives that you can surround yourself by, because that will really enhance your older years to a degree that we are all seeing to be true. Along those lines, a larger community like mine and like Gary's goes a long way to helping with that, because as we age, we are more likely to be isolated. Some of us aren't driving anymore, and due to any kind of physical or cognitive infirmity, our lives might be quite a bit more limited. And staying in a socially rich community can really be a lifesaver. So it's incredibly important, I think. So thanks for bringing that up, Nancy.
Yeah.
And will you talk a little bit how important it is to think about transportation? A lot of people don't think about that. They think about the home they're going to be living in, but then they don't put too much thought into how they're going to get around if they can't drive.
So in the larger communities and the small little 6-bed, I call them, sometimes they're called a 6-pack, the houses in regular communities, transportation's included in their rent. And so they can take them to the heart doctor, eye doctor. A lot of my smaller homes and even the big communities even have a house doctor that comes in. He's a geriatric specialist. They come into the home, and so these frail seniors that are in the little 6-bed homes especially don't have to get into a car, get to a doctor's office, wait in a lobby. The doctor comes to them. There's concierge doctors that you just they have a set fee for a year. And then there's doctors that just bill Medicare. And they are wonderful. Then they have dental cleaning. They can take you to the dentist, or some homes have the dental come to you. Podiatrists come to the facility, the large places, as far as I know,
Yep.
and the small homey-like settings. They have podiatrists come in, beauticians come in. So everything's right there at your fingertips in your community that you live in, which makes it really nice. Freeing up, and the socialization, and freeing up laundry and cooking and transportation. I tell you, when we get into a community with a family and we follow up with our company and see how the family's doing, they feel and look 10 years younger, because they are just surrounded by, other seniors that are going through the same thing they're going through, but they have all these fun activities to enjoy with one another. And they build friendships. Like in Gary and Susan's community, they have like a welcoming community group that welcomes the new person in, so you're not feeling like, how am I gonna, get acquainted with everybody? And I'll let them explain that.